Considering we're in a time where a lot of Metal Gear fans feel like Konami's constantly slapping them in the face with their recent announcements, this announcement came at a particularly weird time. We just had the pachinko machine. People were already pissed off about that. We had the idea of Konami wanting to win us back, win our trust back eventually, which is a novel idea, but then they come out with this. And clearly, that's not what people were expecting when they said, oh, we're going to try and win you back. So you have Metal Gear Survive, a 4-player co-op survival zombie game, which to most people, this is as far as you could get from a Metal Gear game as possible, with it still somewhat being Metal Gear. And for the most part, people do have a point. I mean, when you think of Metal Gear, you think of a single-player game with a good story, stealth action, and a giant robot to fight. Interesting characters, so on and so forth. You get the idea. But to be honest, this idea, despite how generic it is, despite how many zombie games there are in this current gaming time that we live in, despite all of that, I'm actually open to the idea.
You what?
Okay, yeah, fine, it's not the most popular opinion out there, and clearly, despite what I said, I still do agree with what other people are saying and what they expect from a Metal Gear game. I can still agree to that, but at the same time, this game is a spin-off. A cheap one at that. Sure, it could have been cheaper, that, like most people have said, it could have been cheaper than $30, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, okay, it seems kind of weird for Metal Gear, but Metal Gear in itself is weird. Let's see where they go with it, because we have Revengeance, we got Metal Gear Acid. Those are games that are completely different genres than what Metal Gear is, and people did freak out when Rising was first announced because it's not Metal Gear. The same thing that's happening with this. So that's what makes me open about it. Like, sure, people are gonna hate it and whatever, but eventually people are gonna get over it. Because, well, the reason people are so strong about hating it now is because we were at a time where Konami has screwed over so many fucking people. So many fans. And they were saying that they wanted to win us back. And this is what they do. Post Kojima as their first attempt. Clearly, whether it's a good idea or not, it's like they don't care about what the current situation is with the fans. Like right now, people hate their guts. It doesn't matter what they do. They're gonna get hate regardless. So at the same time, it's like they're just doing this to kind of make people focus on that. I don't know what they're thinking at their fucking like company over there. But I just know for a fact that this is eventually going to die down. Sure, the game will probably not get that many sales, and if you don't want it, you really shouldn't buy it. Like, despite what I'm saying, that I actually believe in this little idea, I'm not gonna buy it day one, don't get me wrong. I'm gonna wait and see what they do with it. Once they release gameplay and all these other things, then I'll fucking decide. But eventually I feel like this will die down. A co-op survival game in MGS5's engine feels like a kind of like it was supposed to happen, because Metal Gear Solid 5 already had resource collecting. That was already a part of the game. It did have the puppets and the skulls, which are kind of like zombies. It had all these elements already there. It's kind of like putting 2 and 2 together. Like it was a natural combination. And plus adding in co-op. To be honest, I've kind of always wanted Phantom Pain to have co-op. It was like a necessary. I felt like it was a necessary thing for it being open world. It was perfect. You see Ghost Recon Wildlands doing it. So it kind of felt like a natural step for Metal Gear Solid to do it. And it didn't happen. And obviously I was a little bit disappointed with it. But now you have this. And they're trying to say, oh, we're going to make co-op a thing and blah, blah, blah. We're going to actually use MGO3's customization and put it to good use, because that's what it looked like. It looked exactly like all of the MGO characters put into a co-op game that you can play. And it's like, thank God they're actually putting that shit to good use. Even though it's recycling, even though it's all this stuff, at least they're putting it to good use. Instead of just wasting it and not even touching it after Phantom Pain dies out. Why do I think this is a good idea? I'm sure you're asking yourself, like, what's the point? Mainly, I think that this game is gonna probably fix a lot of the issues that Phantom Pain had in its free roaming. What I mean by that is that in Phantom Pain, the free roaming was stale. There was no dynamic to it. It was all kind of predictable. The tanks and helicopters and all those other things, they never really spawned unless it was a side op. So you had all these things that were tough to fight, and they would never spawn unless it was a side op or you were doing a main mission, which you were restricted anyway because of the mission area. So all these things, it lacked dynamic. Like, there was nothing you could say that, oh, you didn't expect this to happen. You didn't expect these enemies to suddenly appear out of nowhere and change your plan. Like, you didn't have to improvise on the fly. Like, oh, what, like this suddenly happened. The only time that ever happens is if you got caught, and that's it. But you never had to account with something coming out of nowhere to change the way you did things. Unless you took really long doing missions, and I guess in main missions tanks would just come in, but that's main missions. I'm talking about free roam and all these other things. When you're going out and free roaming trying to find soldiers and all these things, there was no dynamic to it. This has the potential to do that, because zombies would essentially fill in the gaps of actual human soldiers to fight and all these other things. Like, zombies could randomly attack outposts while you're trying to scope it out to get resources. That could be an interesting thing to happen sometimes, because you don't expect it to happen. Like, you'll see these things happening and you're like, oh, they'll just stay over there, that'll be good. But then something happens where they actually start walking over in that direction, they start attacking people, they eliminate the entire outpost, and it's like, okay, now you have to go through zombie-infested outposts to get all these resources that you need. And that's line of thinking, that's what got me kind of excited for this game, because as long as shit happens that you don't expect, it'll be fun. But let's be realistic here, because we're talking about Konami, and we know how Konami has been doing things lately. And despite my optimistic behavior towards this game, I know that there's going to be things that they're just not going to do. For one, the AI is probably not going to be any different than Phantom Pain. They're going to have to really fix the AI to include some dynamic nature of this, because for the most part, the AI is very simple in Phantom Pain. They kind of just follow a generic route that they've laid out. They have a night and day patrol, and that's it. They kind of just follow a generic set of rules to keep them actually feeling like they're actually doing something. Obviously, when you get caught, they go on patrol mode and they go to random locations that you were at to kind of make it easier to spot you and all these other things. But the AI is going to have to behave a lot more dynamically. They're going to have to react more to things, react more to noises and all these other things, because we're in a really destroyed world. And that's me saying if they're actually going to be enemy humans to fight. Because if they're not, and it's only just zombies and that fucking Metal Gear or something, then that's going to be bad too. And that's not even counting all the other problems it could have. For one, if the resources spawn the same way as they do in Phantom Pain, which is the little crates, by the way, the little crates of resources that you can find, if they all spawn in the same exact place, and they all spawn at once, and there's no randomness to it at all, then that's also going to be hindering to the experience, because it'll be predictable. You'll just be going outpost to outpost and clearing it all and getting all the resources you need. And you don't want something like that to happen. You don't want people to easily blow through any challenge you throw at, which I hope they actually keep in mind, because obviously if they're going to add a Metal Gear to fight and all these other things, then clearly they want to add some sort of like menace that you're going to have to pay attention to be able to survive and all these other things. So there's all that. But there's a third thing that might hinder this game completely, and it's microtransaction. That's the one thing that I know for a fact that for certainty that it's probably going to be in the game, without fail. You can say, oh, it's not going to be important, blah, 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 but in a survival game, the microtransactions could be the worst thing that you can add. There is no excuse to add microtransactions in a survival game. And there's nothing else to really say about it. If they do add microtransactions, avoid this game. I'm going to avoid it, because there's no point. Sure, thank God it's just co-op then, because if it was open world like DayZ with multiple people and you could kill each other and shit, and there were microtransactions, then that game was dead. Forget it. No point. But you know, co-op, it might be less annoying. You can just ignore it and you'll be fine. But for the most part, microtransactions is probably going to be in the game. So those are three things: the dynamics of the open world, because, well, imagine like Far Cry 3. In Far Cry 3, whenever you would attack an outpost, you would sometimes get random animals to attack it for you. And the soldiers would have to fight off the animal. They would eventually kill it, or the animal would kill all of them. And that's just one thing, because all the animals kind of behave the same anyway. So that was just one dynamic that would happen. But that kind of made it interesting, because it was something you never expected, so it would give you a lot of awesome moments. So dynamic is something that Phantom Pain needed. So hopefully they can fix that and put it in Survive, because that alone will make the game reach untold levels of greatness if it can do that. But then again, it's Konami, so let's keep it realistic. The second thing is the resource managing and the spawn rates for it. So, if they don't spawn in weird places, if they spawn a lot and frequently and in the same areas, then it'll just get boring and you'll go to the same places over and over again. You get the idea. And then the last one is the microtransactions, which, yeah, there's nothing much else to say. So, all in all, do I think that this game has potential? Yeah, I think it does. But I'm also keeping myself in a realistic mindset, because I know that it's probably gonna... I'm thinking what I want it to be, not what it's going to be. Like, not what it is, you know? So, here's what I say that people should do. Just don't buy it day one. Like, regardless if you think it's a good game, don't buy it day one. Don't pre-order it yet. Don't do anything about it. Even though I'm not pre-ordering this, it's like, I'm gonna wait until reviews come out. I'm gonna see gameplay. Like, this is not a game you should buy day one, because Konami has not proven themselves to earn your pre-order yet. They're still in that spot where people still hate their guts. So don't give in yet. Like, we need to stand our ground and show that, no, you need to earn this back. We're not going to just give you our support just because you announce a new Metal Gear game, just because normal Metal Gear games take 9 years to create and this one came out in 2 years. It's like, that's not enough. Like, we need to stand our ground and show them that, no, we're not going to just outright support this. So keep this in mind. Even if you're an avid supporter of this, it's crucial that you stay back and wait before supporting this, because Konami has not earned it yet. Anyway, that's what I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what do you hate about it. Like, what do you expect from a Metal Gear game? Because what I mostly think is that it's usually a single player experience, and yada yada yada. Online should never be a part of it, and etc. That's what I think a majority of people think the Metal Gear experience is. If you have any differences, you can tell me. You know, just whatever. Like, if you think this game is gonna be good, say why. If you think it's gonna suck, say why. Like, all of these things are important, because once we see gameplay, we can compare what we were thinking about and say which one is the accurate one. Like, which one is it gonna be like? And once we figure out which one it is, then we could unanimously agree that this game is going to be this certain way. There's nothing else to it, really. So anyway, that's all I got to say. Go down in the comments, say your piece. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.